One of the catchphrases in the exopolitics community is the lie is different at every level. And how that applies here is mind control is the preferred weapon of the interstellar game players. And a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the game became getting the other guy or the other group. And technologies were invented to capture and torture spiritual beings. And that's tumbled down to capturing and torturing spiritual beings who are so degraded they think they need to have a meat body to get by. And that's the local scene here, but the technology comes from long ago and far away. There's a lot of things here that people question, like, are there ghosts, are there aliens, is there life after death? And how that's kept up in the air is people make documentaries, films, movies, write books about it. And the format is, well, we'll give you all the positive and all the negative information. I'm being totally honest. You'll like us or me, and you make up your own mind because I'm giving you that respect. But all that does is confuse people. People are so hard pressed they don't have time to intellectually pursue this and make their own decision, and unfortunately like to be told what's going on by authority figures. So this is part of a very soft suppression here. So yes, there are ghosts, and if you want to know what that is, read Peter Uspensky or Baba. Yes, there are aliens. Yes, there is life after death. And before death, Billy Preston said it best. Will we go round in a circle? Yes. Until you decide to not go around in a circle anymore. A lot of my videos are about how to escape from the game piece of planet Earth, which is a very difficult place to get out of. It's pretty well the end of the line, but it's also an escape portal. Not everyone can escape, according to Peter Uspensky's books. Higher schools are to give information to those who want to escape, and in general to create civilizations to make the barbarism here a little less caustic. So the incredulity involved with mind control is understandable, because how would we develop such a thing? But we didn't develop such a thing. Beings in better shape than us did that, and this universe is a game space that was created, and it's not even the really good game space. It's universe number 2, where all the junk from universe number 1 was thrown because there was such a good time being had there that people didn't have time to get rid of all this matter, energy, space, and time. Now, unfortunately, some people thought it would be a good idea to come in here and play a game. Whether that was a good idea or not, it's not the subject of this video, but the beings in this game are going to be collected out of it, and then it's going to be dissolved. Time frame for that, I don't know what that is, but that's part of what my series of videos is about. I started looking at a few of the gangstalking videos. I shudder at having to go through all that stuff. It's a new topic for me. The gentleman who came here was one of the most intelligent people I've ever run into. And he said he was part of a government project, and there were 5 people that he knew of. And this thing, according to him, is in the experimental stage, and the only longer video I've looked at by an individual seems to think he's also an experiment, looking towards a society where mind control is the extant technology. This is a prison planet for another civilization which is not too far away. So it's not a well-meaning world. And that place is totalitarian, like the dreams of Nazi Germany. They have mind control. And the things that we have as streetlights here are a mirror image of mind control devices that are down every street, leaking into every house. And it's so suppressive. If someone has a bad thought against the government, they'll turn themselves in. Now, out of that society, they pull out the what they call degraded beings, losers, people who won't participate. The great managers, the great geniuses, the great musicians, the great creators. And they send them here because people like that upset the totalitarian norm. Also the revolutionaries from there. Which is why we have so much incredible talent here, intellectual talent and artistic talent, and the ratio is 80% degraded beings and 20% of the others, and the theory is for us to get out of here, everyone has to go at the same time, and that the 20% will never be able to organize the 80% into doing that. So it's meant to last forever. Behind me is a picture of John Lennon, who's the spiritual head of the country of Utopia, which he invented. And if you want to see that, find a DVD called John Lennon versus the U.S. government. And he goes through the setup there of a country that has no land, only people, whose laws are cosmic. And you can join this just by becoming aware of it. And there are some if you just go and see that video, there are some other things, some hangers on to that concept, but I haven't seen anything that's non-hippy-dippy or drug-oriented. One of the mistakes that was made in the interstellar cultures with mind control was they didn't figure out a way to how to undo it or defend against it. When you're developing a super weapon, you should have your super weapon team, and then you should have another team saying, this is what they're doing, invent a defense for it, so that we can't have our weapon turned against us. And what was done in the past, because we are immortal beings involved in an eternal game, was a way to actually implant something into the spiritual being without his knowledge, to mess him up. And it would be there forever because he doesn't know it's there. And to some extent, that's what's wrong with people here. Spiritual beings running around in me bodies. And beings dramatize what was done to them, very often without realizing they're dramatizing, and they don't know what was done to them. And this totalitarianism, mind control, is a dramatization of what's been done to people in their far distant past, millions, billions, trillions of years ago, and they're still carrying the electronic implants and dramatizing them here on this little blue ball. And we get what we have, which is the modern world with the news. Now, why mind control? Besides the totalitarian wishes of the few. The gentleman who was here said the depopulation effort will be done by means of a riot which will start small and go worldwide. And he believes that this mind control technology will be used to incite people into that state, which would be a logical and practical reason why they're experimenting with it, so they can get it down so that it works. Now I have a large electronics background, and I've looked at the science that's available on the net, and inside a human brain there are very, very tiny electrical signals. The brain is not you, you're a spirit wearing a mind, wearing a body. But the question one asks as an experimenter is it possible from a distance, 30 feet, 60 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 miles, to affect the electrical signals in a human brain? And that's the basis of the experimentation that was done, is can we do this? And can we do it better? And what will happen? Can this be used for mind control? Can this be used to drive people crazy? Voices in their head, heating their body up with microwave. I mean, remember the spontaneous human combustion? That doesn't happen anymore. I think that was a triangulation of what do you call that? Beam weapons of some kind or other. One of the greatest and most humorous examples of mind control is in The Dark Crystal, the Jim Henson's movie, where there's a British professor with an umbrella facing one of the Skeksis, and he says, "You can't hypnotize me, I'm British." And then go, Jim Henson subsequently died over a weekend from the super virus flu that some people seem to get when they make too much noise. So I think it is possible using microwaves, HARP, and they've discovered scalar waves and pull things out of Tesla technology where they can deliver electronics to your physical brain to affect it. Let's say we don't need to know exactly how they do it, but the purpose is to put voices in your head or change your emotions. If you have a crowd and you can make everyone insanely angry all at the same time, you're going to get a riot. And I was renting a suite to a young security guard, and the hockey riot that happened here. He came home early, and I said, "What are you doing home early?" He said, "I came home to change my clothes because I don't want to be seen wearing a uniform." And this was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He said people were walking through the streets chanting, "Riot, riot, 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 riot." And the riot happened about 3 hours later, before the game ended. So I think that this was a mind control experiment, and the US government a long time ago made it legal to experiment with weapons on the populace, even their own, but especially the populace of other countries. And our government has been caught at least once giving permission for the American military to experiment on Canadian cities, so it wouldn't be the first time. There's also a riot here at the Guns N' Roses concert. I tore the Coliseum apart, ripped up all the seats and everything. Never happened before or since. Interesting coincidence. That hasn't happened in other Canadian cities. Now, on a higher level, I've had a couple of other experiences which I will relate to you. I once popped out of here to an awareness of being in a room, and the room was full of faces that were cheek to cheek, and it was a globe of just faces. And in the center of the room there was a raised platform with computers that don't look any more advanced than our computers. And there was an operator there, a human being, a guy, a little bit portly, pants, belt, shirt, with a mustache. He noticed I was awake and came over and pressed a button and put me back to sleep. Track the place down. It's in the mountains, the Pyrenees. It's called Golden Egg. You can find this on Google Maps, and you will notice roads going up there, but the area is painted over with a very interesting Google Map fake forest stuff. And I think Golden Egg is an in-your-face ha-ha to us, that the planet is a place that people are mining for good stuff, not just gold. The drugs, the liquor, the young people, whatever we have here that's sellable. It's also very close to where Adolf Hitler was a child. He was a child in the forest on the other side of the mountains. And He apparently used to be let free to roam during the day. He was gone all day in the forest and came back. Could have been receiving training. That's in his biography. And related to that is the phrase from them that they say, we are the wolves and they are the sheep. Another thing that happened fairly recently is I sort of drifted out of this 3D world / illusion again into a kind of lab situation with taller machines, and the reality that we live in looked like a projection on the inside of a big balloon. And it seemed like an invitation to know there is a completely different alternate situation around you that you're not really aware of. It seems to me that life here is very much like that movie, The Matrix. And it may be that complete. Which would be a pretty good prison planet, a prison for your mind. And you see I have the big chair like Morpheus. So those who suggest freedom and escape are not popular. One of the reasons, or maybe the only reason, the Church of Scientology got into trouble was this technology came out after the war, so 45, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dianetics was released in 1950. The research had been going on for years before, and the Scientology auditors were discovering people who had been programmed, tortured, pain drug hypnosis, early experiments, and mentioned this, and then suddenly they're attacked. And it's still being attacked. Well, that's all for now. If you think they are not coming for you, you were wrong. If you think you'll survive just because you're you, I think you're wrong. For example, 60 million people died in Russia under Stalin. 60 million individual people were slaughtered. Now, Peter Ouspensky and the Fourth Way School people say that when that happens, the genetic entity, which is a very old spiritual being who's so degraded all he can do is run a meat body, goes to feed the moon, which is the child of the earth, which will eventually become a planet, which will eventually become a star. The universe is a growing thing. And the released spiritual being, you, gets another body to grow another one. So there's a farm-like aspect to planet Earth. And those who know more, the illumined ones, the ones who have been enlightened, know this and are taking advantage of it. And treating the rest of us like mushrooms that keep us in the dark and feed us bullshit.